I'm particularly happy that this event is happening at the Palestinian Embassy. On Sunday, at a panel discussion at the Walk for Palestine, I made the point that the embassy has a very different role to play in solidarity work. Whilst it does the normal diplomatic stuff, it must take the posture of an embassy of a country that is not yet free, of a country that is striving to be free. It cannot be an embassy of a country that is already free. So whilst it does the diplomatic work, it has a responsibility to still do the activist work, to be almost as the embassies of all liberation organizations before their countries became free. Because if you don't do this, you do not set the agenda, you do not provide the information, you do not keep South African society focused on this issue. And what then happens is you have many different solidarity organizations, all of us doing our own things with very little coordination. And I think that the embassy must begin to play that kind of role. We did acknowledge that the embassy itself requires support and resources and so forth, but I think that that must come out of a process where the embassy's role also begins to change fundamentally from what it has been thus far. So I'm very happy that this event is happening here today. Political prisoners are the face of resistance. Political prisoners are prisoners because they decided to oppose whatever was wrong. And in Palestine, becoming a political prisoner can come about from a very simple act of just spray painting a slogan, or walking down a street that is meant only for Israeli citizens. We saw this in the town of Hebron, a town that has got a small Israeli settlement in the center of Hebron. But in this town, there are dedicated streets only for Israeli citizens in that area. If you are a Palestinian on those roads at the wrong time, you are subjected to arrest, irrespective of whether you needed to use this road or not. The other thing that struck us when we were there, when we talk about settlements, I had the impression of small little places, but these are huge towns. They are almost the size of many of the townships that exist in South Africa. And they have dedicated roads only. If again you're driving on those roads, you're not supposed to, you can go to jail for that act of defiance. So becoming a political prisoner is very easy in that part of the world. As the ambassador said, over 800,000 people have gone through the jails of Israel. Almost 7,500 today languish in the jails of Israel. And the numbers grow by the day. Is spoken about the different categories of prisoners. One in particular that we in the Kathrada Foundation thought important to rally the globe around is one particular prisoner called Marwan Barghouti. Now Marwan was the first member of the Palestinian legislature to be abducted from Palestine, taken to Israeli jails, serving 3 life sentences, plus I think 20 odd years. And there is no hope unless through pressure that somebody like Marwan will be released. Now in jail, Marwan Barghouti and all the other leaders of different political parties developed what they call the prisoner's document. And it's one of the few documents that has brought together all the different political formations to identify what needs to be done in terms of struggle but also what Palestinians themselves must do. And foremost amongst the things that they talk about is the need for Palestinians to get their own act together in terms of their representative structures. And I'll come back to this at a later point. The foundation launched with other organizations the Call for Marwan's campaign on Robben Island. That campaign has now become global. It has gone all across Europe. It has gone across South America. It has got a global panel of people in support of it from across the African continent as well. This year, a campaign was started by the Argentinian Nobel Prize winner, Perez Escobar, and he nominated Marwan Barghouti for the Nobel Peace Prize. He has formally submitted this. It will probably come into 2017. Archbishop Tutu has now endorsed this call as the second Nobel laureate. The third Nobel laureate is the Tunisian workers. So 3 Nobel laureates have now endorsed the call for Marwan Barghouti. We are now looking at how to take these campaigns across the length and breadth of South Africa. Because if every legislature, if every municipality supports this call, then the Nobel Committee will have to take that into account. If we think that this is a practical way to demonstrate support. A few weeks ago, a group of about 18 or 19 mayors from various French cities went to Israel. They tried to go and see Marwan in jail. They were denied entry, they couldn't do it, but they did their demonstrations outside the prison. And that's the second thing, that when our ex-prisoners go, we must find a way of actually making it a demand to go and talk to the leadership who are in jail, in the jails of Israel. That's what we can do. We learned a lot from Palestinian prisoners themselves, their association. The amount of work that they do to preserve the history of prisoners was incredible. I have not seen something similar to that in South Africa, where the stories of prisoners are captured, their artwork is captured, their design work, everything about the prisoners is collected so that it will tell the story of the prisoners themselves. And we think that that is something that we need to learn more about and take forward. There is, however, an issue that we must talk about. That is the prisoners who are not in the jails of Israel, but who are in the jails of West Bank and Gaza. We think that that is important, because if we only hold the Israelis up to international standards, and we don't hold the Palestinian Authority itself up to those same standards, we will not be speaking, we will not be honest to ourselves around political prisoners. So we need to look at whether those prisoners in the jails of Palestine and Gaza are in fact, need our same attention as prisoners elsewhere. And I think that that kind of area of work is something that we will have to deal with. To conclude, prisoners, as we learned through the Release Mandela campaign, can become a very powerful mobilizing force if used correctly. The Release Mandela campaign brought global support for the anti-apartheid struggle. And we need to find ways, as we have been doing through the Marwan campaign and other political prisoners. Last week, Friday, there was a demonstration in Sandton by the Palestinian Solidarity Committee, led by Ronnie Casrels. They tell me that they will now look at monthly demonstrations at different parts of South Africa. And that's the other tactic that we need to start looking at, is ongoing visibility with this particular campaign. So I think that all of us who are here must get together, develop our campaign plan, pull in everybody else who can be part of this campaign, and put pressure where pressure is possible. But the fundamental thing is this solidarity must not be one-sided. It's prisoners across the board, Hamas, Fatah, whichever particular party is involved, they are worthy of support by the mere fact that they are in prison. Thank you very much.